Alrighty, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episodes 1 and 2 of season 2 of The Bad Batch. So if you haven't checked those episodes out yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, watch both of those episodes, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything that took place in episodes 1 and 2 of the new season of The Bad Batch, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
Not too much. I mean, it's day 1 of the new season of Bad Batch. I mean,
Star Wars.
Star Wars. So, I mean, all is good with the world. It's a new year. It's a new season of The Bad Batch. We get the return of, all of our characters that we've enjoyed since season 1. Yeah, I mean, as far as premieres go, I really do like when we get multiple episodes, especially when they flow together as well. I feel as these 2 episodes did, where this could have just been one long episode, really. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about this episode. Really, I mean, the one thing I do have to, lead with is my pop culture reference. And I think right out the gate, from the very beginning of the episode, we see 3 of the members of the Bad Batch running from giant crabs, which are absolutely terrifying. Like, if I wanted to think up a nightmare monster, I mean, that's pretty accurate. Just giant crabs that have, impenetrable by lasers shells, basically. But it reminded me immediately of the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It immediately parallels it, because we have Omega laying on the ship, just like the pilot of the plane was going to do it, and they're fishing too. They had a line in the water and they were fishing also, which is exactly like the Raiders scene. I mean, it paralleled it perfectly. I thought it was great, and it instantly made me think of that. And I couldn't think of a better way to start off the episode than that. Immediately reminding me of my favorite Indiana Jones movie and getting right into action and stuff like that. But Rico, what were some of your initial impressions of episodes 1 and 2?
Yeah, I love this 2-part premiere as well. You gotta love when Star Wars and Indiana Jones are constantly mirroring each other, because of course they are both Lucasfilm productions. And another thing that's really cool about that is the way, in Raiders, you get dropped into the middle of an episode or mission with Indy, with the whole stealing the bag and running away from the boulders, such like that. And right here, you're just right in the beginning of the episode, we're throwing right into the footage that we saw in the trailer, really. So right away, we're getting that footage out of the way. Hey, we've seen this. Let's just do it right here in the first scene. Boom. Then running away from giant sea crabs that are, again, they're with invulnerable shells, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just kind of getting caught right in the madness with the Bad Batch again, right back into the swing with these characters that we grew to love over 16 episodes in the first season. And yeah, it's just kind of more of the same here. We get a really cool mission of them, which kind of ties back to Count Dooku and more of the prequel stuff. When this show was supposed to come out or the season was supposed to come out in the summer, this would have been kind of wedged between Tales of the Jedi and Andor and such stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that they're tying into in this premiere kind of goes into both of those shows. It's kind of cool. We learned a lot more from Dooku and Tales of the Jedi, and some of the stuff involving the Empire in this episode's kind of tie in with what we saw in Andor too, just kind of for a different audience, right? So that was really cool. And, heists and Star Wars just kind of go hand in hand right now. How many times have we seen a Star Wars project where characters are doing some sort of heist
Yeah.
And they hit it out of the ballpark every single time. I feel like it's just fun watching characters interact in a heist setting because there's high tension, there's always great action, and there's always like a level of like cleverness to it. Like that you're always like watching how certain characters tackle certain obstacles, which I think is always really fun. Um, and one more thing I really love is that hey, Wanda Sykes is in Star Wars now,
Yeah.
which is really cool. We meet I think her name was G or Fee. I think her name is Fee, which is a really cool character we meet in the beginning of the episode. Who's kind of like who the Bad Batch is kind of doing a job for unknowingly. It seems like, and it seems like we're gonna get to know a little bit more of her in the episodes to come with her relationship with Sid. Really cool. Another legendary actress, Rhea Perlman, voicing that character too. I always forget every time I hear that voice. I'm like that's Rhea Perlman. Uh, so that was really cool. But yeah, there's a lot to love in these first two episodes, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to say, I am 100% a sucker for the whole plot where it's like this is the big score that we're gonna do, where we don't have to worry about doing more jobs after this type of thing. I'm
Mhm.
always like, as soon as that happens, like that scene happens, I know, okay, this is gonna be good. Some hijinks are gonna happen. Like, I'm a sucker for that kind of plot line. I always am, and I use that in the best way possible. I'm not saying like it's an unoriginal type of thing. I
Yeah.
just whenever that comes into play, I'm like, okay, I'm in now. I'm in. I'm ready.
Mhm.
But anyway, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I have two really small ones. The first one kind of goes hand in hand with what you were saying was one of the things I really appreciated about this premiere, being that it was two episodes, number one, that flowed kind of really well into one longer episode, is that they threw us right into action. It wasn't like they used the first episode to kind of say, this is what's happened since the end, like the season finale type of thing, and get us up to speed with what the characters have been doing. They did little, like we got little like breadcrumbs throughout the episode, like
Yeah.
Omega's studying all the classes of ships and stuff like that.
Where she's being integrated into the team.
Right,
Right.
exactly. So I did like that they did that, but also I just liked that we, it was as if we just picked up and this is another episode. It's not the premiere, it's not anything. We didn't have like a recap, we didn't have any of this. I just liked getting right into action, and it's just, the team that we've grown to love, and they're on another mission type of thing. You know what I mean? I really appreciated that they did that instead of, wasting. No, not wasting's the bad word for it, but spending the first of the two episodes to kind of explain what's happened in the meantime that we didn't see on camera, I guess. So I do appreciate that a lot. The other is just appreciation for the laser bow that Omega has.
Cool weapon. For sure.
Yeah, I just think it's like, I don't know why it didn't click for me more in during season one. But just in the opening premiere when she's shooting laser arrows at the crabs and stuff, I was like, this is a cool weapon. Like I had to point out that it was kind of I just appreciated it, I guess, a little bit more this season already.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that, and I had to mention it. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from these two episodes?
Yeah, I really enjoyed kind of seeing that opening sequence too. How you've seen the teams grown a little bit since those the first season, and even like the character models look a little bit different. Of course,
Yeah.
Omega looks like she's definitely grown a bit, and of course, the relationship between her and Hunter has always been kind of a cool dynamic in the show. That kind of plays a big part into one of my big takeaways here, which is kind of the dynamic between Omega, Hunter, and Echo, because of course, Echo is the not only the outsider of the Bad Batch because he's the one that they saved and brought into the group. He also has like another purpose that he thinks, which is fighting the Empire. Like the reason they take this score is Hunter wants to provide like a life where they can kind of stop and Omega can kind of just kind of grow up and have a normal life.
Right.
And Echo and believes that they have like this other purpose. They should be out there fighting and doing more good, which of course is like another branch of the rebellion that they could potentially be starting is essentially what we're looking at here. I feel like so it presents this really cool kind of dynamic for the episode where Omega hears this argument going on between Echo and Hunter, and kind of every decision she makes in that episode is kind of based off of the words that she heard Echo saying in that before. Like, hey, we changed our whole life because of this little girl. We could have a different life, and she kind of takes that the wrong way and mistakes because of it. All really just to kind of get Echo's approval, essentially. And so that kind of all wraps up in a really cool way at the end where Echo tells her like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like this is the life we chose for a reason. Like, of course we did this. Like we weren't gonna do anything else. So that was really cool, just kind of seeing that family dynamic between them because again, they're brothers and sisters essentially. So again, that was really cool. Again, that emotional undertone throughout the episode is really well done. But also the tying into what I was saying about the kind of the Andor comparisons here is the way the Empire is kind of being depicted. We're kind of seeing a much more mature depiction of the Empire in Star Wars now. They're especially in this cool transition phase between the Empire going from the Republic era and of course using clones going to normal soldiers. We kind of saw that at the end of season one where like the clones are starting to see that they're being phased out by other troopers essentially. Um, so I think that turns up in a really cool way at the end of the episode, of course, with the Admiral Rampart, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But there's again this we're seeing like how the Empire is a lot smarter than they've been originally portrayed in the past, aside from again a few select characters like Tarkin, who I'm sure we're going to see quite a few times in this season, of course, because he was very tied into Rampart. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this kind of like fearsome Empire depiction that we're finally getting.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I mean, just one thing I wanted to bring up about your first takeaway is we got some character development. I mean, we got some of Omega's development. Like you said, she kind of took what she heard poorly, and it led her to make a few mistakes that were some plot points in episode 2. But overall, we get to see this growth, and I think it's cool to see that in a cartoon. Really, really,
Yeah.
it makes it feel more like a live action show, if that makes sense. Because I know, we're dealing with cartoon. I get that, but seeing that and not just seeing like stereotypical characters and cookie cutter things, and having actual emotion and actual real character growth and stuff like that, I feel like it kind of fleshes out the characters to almost be more of like a live action type of thing.
Right, absolutely. And like for one thing, like in season one, of course, like anytime Omega wanted to go on a mission with the crew, Hunter was never about it. Like he was like, "No, you're gonna stay here. Someone's gonna protect you." The second that they get the mission, he asks her, "Are you gonna come with us?" Like there's immediately that growth there. Like he sees her as a capable member of the team, and she could actually be of some use. And she has been apparently, especially in that first mission that we see that she helps out and carrying the cargo up to the ship and helping them get out of there and such.
Yeah.
And also got to give credit to D. Bradley Baker, who is not he's voicing every single clone on this show. He's voicing the Bad Batch, he's voicing Crosshairs, Wilco, like any Rex, like anyone you can think of as a clone. Like D. Bradley Baker's been the voice of them, and he has to bring an individuality to every single one of those characters. And he's doing an incredible job. I'll say he deserves a lot more praise in this for this show than he's been getting. I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how he could keep every single clone trooper that he's voicing, to make just little subtle differences when he's doing like inflection or something like that, to go, no, this is clone trooper B7812 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like that must be exhausting to try to keep that in your head when you're just doing like little tiny sentences from here and there from different people. But yeah, it's super impressive, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that type of thing. But you want to get to some predictions? Awesome. Well, normally you kick us off here, but I have a question, less of a prediction, more of a question that I feel like will tie into your prediction pretty well. If you have an answer, great. If you don't, totally understand. And maybe, the viewers / listeners, now that we have our audio only podcast also, maybe they can give us some answer to my question, but also hopefully it will lead better into your prediction. So really, after watching the end of episode 2, we get a scene where it looks like there's going to be a cover-up of the Bad Batch still existing, I guess is the easiest way to put it. And I mean, that's really my question, is why is there now this cover-up of the Bad Batch squad still being out there, still being alive type of thing? Because you would think it would just be like, oh yeah, we know exactly who they are now. Let's just start tracking them, asking around for, information on and intel on where we can start hunting them down, basically. But it's instantly covered up. We get the shot where, no pun intended, where one of the clone troopers gets shot at the end, because he refuses to cover up the report, type of thing.
So it could be a few things that, like, if from an outside perspective, it could be a way of just finding a way to not acknowledge the Bad Batch's existence within the main timeline, because they are kind of like their own branch, so it's a kind of way to keep everything they did like off the books, so that it wasn't really in like a weird like recorded history or something that other people could refer to, I guess, later on. But I think that within the storyline, when Rampart shoots Wilco after, I thought Wilco the clone was someone from Clone Wars, but when I looked him up, this was his first appearance. He just seemed really familiar to me with how much he was kind of put in the spotlight, because he was a real formidable kind of opponent for the Bad Batch, because he was basically outsmarting them a lot of times. And so of course, when he refuses to basically leave out that they were there in the report and Rampart shoots them, I think it goes back to the finale when he was basically given the order to destroy the city, and he basically left Crosshairs down there to die with them. They could all die. Crosshairs ends up making it out of there. They take them up, and that'll lead into my prediction a little bit later. But I guess he made a report basically that the Bad Batch also perished in that mission. So if Tarkin had found out that report was false, who knows what kind of ramifications that Rampart could have faced for that. And I think we see a lot of times where Empire officers are trying to cover for their own ass, especially. So I think that's probably the more likely scenario that we're seeing.
I see. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But what were some of your predictions, though? I know that kind of led into one of your predictions. That's why I wanted to make sure I asked it first, basically.
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that question, because of course I brought up Crosshairs, who we haven't seen in this. We didn't see it all in this premiere.
Right.
In the finale last season, he was left on Camino after the Bad Batch offered him to come back, and he said no. I made my decision. So he gets picked up by the Empire, but we don't see him at all in this episode. We don't know what happened to Crosshairs after the finale, where his headspace is at after basically having the chance to rejoin his family, or just basically having to stick with the decision that he's made, and where's he going to be at after that? Where was his status in the Empire after he's done that? It kind of feels like that they kind of started the Death Troopers, I feel like, off of like his squadron. I feel like it feels like that those are his squadrons, like the precursor to. Mm-hmm. But given the fact that clones have an accelerated life force, I'm curious how much longer he'll be alive for. So, of course, I feel like that's going to be the through line for the whole season. Is one that job that's going to get them off of doing jobs for Sid, like to get them to retire, the Bad Batch, and how that story with Crosshairs is going to resolve itself in the meantime. So one of those things is going to get in the way of the other, for sure.
I like that. I mean, that totally makes sense. Like, I don't feel like I have a prediction yet. I'm hoping next episode we'll probably get, one episode at a time for the rest of the season. Maybe it'll leave more of a cliffhanger and I'll have like an obvious prediction, but like that totally makes sense. Obviously. I mean, you're right. We didn't see Crosshairs at all in this. And so, I mean, he's got to enter at some point. And we're going to be seeing him, and obviously there's going to be, this, what's going to happen between their relationships between that. Yeah, I mean, look, when they start, intertwining all of these other projects and stuff like that, I mean, the sky's the limit on what we could see and what we could get teased and what could twist into this season. So I'm here for it. I think it's going to be exciting either way, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm glad to have some more Star Wars week.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, we still got to recap Andor. So I mean, we got nothing but Star Wars for a little while now. I mean, the next Marvel thing is what? March?
February.
I was thinking series, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I guess there's, nothing more to say for this episode except that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the 2-episode premiere of Bad Batch Season 2? And you know what? What do you think's going to happen with Crosshairs? When are we going to see him? And, what's going to happen to our lovable Bad Batch squad throughout the season. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our video releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.